I wanted to show you another enhancement that you can make to the subsurface scattering shader. So this particular tutorial will pick up where the last one left off. Right here I have the candle. I have a ramp on the back weight that's going to allow the back weight to increase as it gets higher towards the flame. So if you recall, we have a ramp texture on here piped into a luminance node, and that luminance node is applied to the back subsurface scattering depth, which is set at 0.2. So what I'm going to do here is put a little pattern on the candle, and I've prepared it already in Photoshop. It's just this it's a fabric pattern that I found on the internet, and I changed the colors so that they are this kind of reddish, against a white. I've saved a couple of other versions of this as well. I have one that has this kind of yellowish background, and I have another one that's just black and white. So I'm going to use these in different ways on this candle. So the first thing that I want to do is change the way that the backscatter penetrates the surface of this candle, and I'm going to do that by multiplying my ramp by the black and white pattern. So I'm going to just bring in a 2D file here, and in the 2D file I'll bring in the black and white one, which I've called Mult2. And I'll drag that down here and multiply the color gain by that. And you can see what happens here. The values of the ramp are now multiplied by the values of that pattern, so that we'll get the 0.2 penetration all the way up here, where we have this set to 1.8. So let's do a quick render of this. And you can see that my backscatter now is penetrating less where I have that pattern and more where it's white. So that's kind of the basis for what I'm doing here. And the next step in this might be to color my candle, so that rather than just have this kind of beigey solid color on the diffuse, I'll use the one of my patterns. So I'll create another file texture, and actually in this case what I'll do is I'll take this file texture, I'll duplicate it with its connections to the network, and that's going to create another file texture, but it's going to keep the same placement. So the same placement is sort of important. I'll click on that second file texture and then just reload the one that has the the red and beige pattern. So I'll just bring this over to the Lambert. I'll map that to the color. So theoretically the background is the same as the diffuse color that you used, and then the red just creates that pattern. So another render, and we can start to see some of the red peeking through here. The last step here is to take this file, and I want to apply that as a bump map. And I can either apply it as a bump map to the Lambert, as a bump map to the Blinn, or as a bump map to the mental ray shader. So I'm going to use the last one here. So what I want to do is I'll create the bump map manually. In my utilities I have a bump 2D, and I'll just drag the file onto the default of the bump map. Let me just maximize this a little bit. So I drag the map onto the bump map here, and then I need to translate that bump map into something that mental ray can understand. So I'm going to go into the mental ray materials, and I'll use a set normal, because the set normal is what mental ray will read as bump. So I'll drag the bump map into the set normal, map it to the normal attribute, and then here I'll put this on the bump. We'll do one more render, and you can see we're starting to get some bump. Now this is going in the wrong direction. The bump is being carved in, and I think that looks pretty good, but my goal was to have it bump out. So what we can do is take the bump map, and instead of having the bump depth be 1, we can make it -1, and that'll just invert that. And so now we're getting this little inverted bump with some nice little specular highlights on here. So that's just another way of furthering this subsurface scattering. What's really nice is that this backscatter kind of diminishes as it goes further away from the light, while the pattern here remains constant. So that gives us a nice look.